Welcome to another episode of Network Canoe. We're going from Rush to Blake's Cross for lunch and back. There must be 50 boats around or on the harbour here, but not one of them is better suited to go where we are bound today and with the crew we have today. There were also probably 50 other days I considered this trip, but not one of them was better suited when wind, tide and season were just right, or right enough for us at least. This is not intended as an instructional video, but I do wish to share some of the things that I have learned in paddling this estuary over the years. In this trip, we used the wind and tide to carry us on this 10-kilometre round trip paddle up this tidal estuary. The estuary is known as Rogerstown Estuary. It's in Ireland, County Dublin, but in many ways, the tips and tricks it has to teach us are similar to any other estuary. In this video, we will study time and tide, weather and windows of opportunity, travel upstream with the flood tide, and return again upon the ebb. One of the things I presume when I make these videos is that in 20 years or so my kids may sit themselves down one day and watch these old trips again. By then they will know the lessons I wanted them to learn on these adventures. Being a crew with them and depending on them is good for those lessons. I think it should not be forgotten that if your activities here bring people, especially children, to value this place as the sanctuary that it is, rather than noisy and dirty landfill site that it once was, then regardless of how you do it, you are on the same side. Common ground is where progress is found. I love a good analogy, and what better analogy for life is there than going to sea in a canoe that in itself can do so little, and yet can go so far if you have a plan and if you understand, but also push your limits a little, especially as a crew. I've been paddling and living along the banks of this river since 2005, not by design as much as by chance, but a happy chance at that. In the pandemic, we began to explore our local stream, and it was then that I realised that our local stream was in fact the main tributary to the same estuary which I had previously been paddling for all those years.
That ice is really strong. Stop trying not to hold me!
In keeping with a very old tale from my youth, we made a model Indian canoe in 2020 called Paddle to the Sea, and we launched him into the local stream with our number on his keel in the way that a sailor might send a message to who knows who within a bottle. Part of today's paddle will of course be to watch out for Paddle to the Sea. You never know. Have you seen him? On the shores of this estuary there exists 2 hides where bird watchers also enjoy their pastime here. I was once there in one of these hides with the kids. An absolute gentleman invited us in and enthusiastically showed the kids the views and wildlife to be seen in the wonderful world within his powerful binoculars. And then he proceeded to complain extensively about the presence of paddlers in this area, stating that they were a disturbance and that their presence was illegal in a special area of conservation. And this is not the only time I have met this opinion. But he was such a gentleman that I decided the least I owed, both him and I, was to find out exactly what was and what was not allowed or responsible in this estuary, and then follow what I found. My pursuit of this led me to conversations with people associated with both Parks and Wildlife Authorities and Birdwatch Ireland. I learned a lot more than I began with. Firstly, I was referred to the relevant regulations, and as you can see in section 4, there is no ban of any paddler. Only mechanically propelled vehicles are banned in the intertidal area. So I am allowed to paddle here. This is the law. However, I did have more to learn than just this. Nesting patterns are important here, and paddling brings a risk of upsetting nesting birds in the spring who may abandon their young. This must be a consideration in planning a trip like this. Also, in winter months, there are geese who fly 3,000 miles to rest and feed here. A train of noisy midwinter disruptions would be unfair to these intrepid birds. So it's fair to say that late summer is the ideal time to visit. If you fall in the water, it's warm. If you don't, the air is warm. And if you make a noise, well, the disruption and impact on bird life is at a minimum.
Why are you doing that?
You're pushing us off.
Where did you find your gun?
All right, you got your pedals?
Yeah.
Up we go, guys. Pedals. Put your hand on the end of the paddle, Adele, not a little bit in.
Wait, my right or left one?
Doesn't matter, Tommy.
You're splashing me. Okay, come. My work is done here. Now it's time to mess with my things. Okay. Where did you find things? Ball!
Yeah, I don't want to chunk into it, do we?
It looks like the ball's moving though.
Yeah, but it's us, it's moving. That's why I've got the tide all worked out. Okay, paddle forward now, guys.
What happens if it did bump into us?
Oh, we just bump.
I do feel that if I am not careful, there is a danger I may catch the eye of Murphy and his damn law by going through weirs with the young crew. But we did train for this last winter, and in the end, the only way to deal with such dangers are either to avoid them entirely or confront them. I confront them by having a plan for all scenarios, because to eternally avoid it is to be trapped by it. If my crew learned that here, instead of living a life trapped by unchallenged boundaries, then the trade of those calculated risks is ultimately fair.
Can we pretend, Mom, that we fell in? No,
Hey, no, you won't be doing that.
why? It'll be funny if it's gonna go.
Nice paddle as well, that's really nice. Good speed going here now.
You'll be falling. Are we going really fast?
We are flying along, Tom. Look how fast we're going.
Oh, you got to
So far, I have only ever taken the kids on those canoe trips where I see that threats exist, such as on rivers or in strong currents, after having done the same trip without them first. I suppose they are growing past that requirement with time and with their growing skill, but I think this logic is a good place from which to begin these type of family adventures.
Now we're going straight for the bridge.
Where's the bridge?
See the bridge over there?
That's a long way away.
It'll be fast with the tide, don't worry.
Okay. The tide's going that way though. Go for it.
This bridge is more like a weir, and a powerful one at that, during the top half of the tide at least. Our paddles touched the bottom while we were passing under the bridge. It is shallow, so therefore the volume of water flows and accelerates over and through it quickly and powerfully.
That's nice paddling.
I observed a water level drop of approximately a half a metre across this bridge. If you time the tide right, it's a one-way ticket through here, both ways.
Look how far behind us the beach is already, guys. Okay?
Get past the bridge lunch? Can we have a lunch break?
Well, no, we need to keep going until we get further up the river before we do that. Okay? All right. Are we ready to give it a good run?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
Why are we only...
Oh, it's so shallow, I'm touching the bottom. Would you believe that?
Really?
Yeah, if you put your oar down, you touch the bottom. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And you have to look how far we are away from everything. It's getting deeper again, so the current should go faster.
Oh, I can see it.
That's it. Feel it move now. You can really, when we all go together, it really moves.
What?
And I have control of its got speed.
What's happening there?
Well, look at the current. Look. Yeah, thank you. Good boy. Now look at that. Does it echo?
Hello? Ooh. What's going on here? We're going so fast. Whee!
Paddle back up that. Look at the amount of drop on it. You see?
Drop?
The water is higher on the other side.
Look at that. Oh, we might be able to go up there. Look at some kids.
And we're going way up further.
Oh, sorry. Now we're just gonna chill here. Yum yum. Can't wait to have the sausage.
Oh yeah, we've got to get going and get those sausages on.
Here.
Once you hop on to this tidal train, you won't be coming back until the tide itself has turned. Once you are beyond the bridge, you need high water, or you are surrounded by acres of mud, glorious mud, with few options. Glorious mud it may well be to the birds, but glorious it would certainly not be if you let yourself get stuck in it, with the ebbing tide making your escape harder by every minute as the keel digs in. Any attempted exit from a canoe for an injury or similar above the bridge will not be fun unless the tide is high and you can get to the firm ground and grass while you are still afloat.
Let's go.
Now this is quite relaxing, isn't it? See the way the tide is just carrying us?
See my board.
Look at that stick in the water beside you there, look. Shows how fast we're going, even though we're not paddling. I think that's a baby seagull.
Hi, baby seagull. You're very brave.
What are these guys called above your head?
Egret?
Oyster catchers. Guess what, guys? This is the river that runs through Ballybuckle, so we should keep a lookout in case we might see Paddle to the Sea. Remember?
Paddle to the sea.
Yeah, remember the little guy we made?
Where do you think he is now?
Because he's stuck in the mud just anywhere around here.
I think he's in America. I have a feeling somebody saw and they're like, me, I'm not going to go.
Yeah, I'm not going to call him. I'm going to keep him. It's amazing how fast you go, isn't it? What we should do while we're taking a break is just go sideways and then the wind will drift us as fast as possible. Don't get it in the boat anyway, guys, right?
Other side.
have measured today that high water up near Blake's Cross at the top of the estuary occurs 30 minutes after high water in Malahide, which is the local standard port for referencing tide times in this area. The turning of the tide here is not a sine wave pattern though. It peaks and turns rapidly, almost more like an upstream slosh than a sine wave. As we ate our lunch and watched the bubbles in the tide come to a halt, there was still a 6-inch rise and fall that occurred in the space of just 20 minutes. Just a few minutes after the drift of the bubbles in the tide had turned for the sea again, the tide was already down 6 inches again. You can see its mark on the shoreline as we paddle away.
Stop here, a little flat back here.
No, okay, stop.
Now, this looks like a nice little place to stop, doesn't it?
My butt. I need to got this thing off.
This'll do. Keep going. There you go.
That feels horrible now. But how am I supposed to get in? I'm gonna let go.
Alright, and drop it in the boat. Looks good.
Can we tell some jokes?
Yeah, you sure can.
Everyone goes to the city. Yeah, we gotta go. What, Dad? I've got a joke.
Yeah, but none of you are paddling.
Oh, yeah. Why is the elephant called mechanic?
What is it?
Why did the elephant call his mechanic?
Call what?
Call the mechanic.
Call the mechanic.
Yeah,
Why?
because there's something up his trunk.
Something wrong in his trunk.
Why did the alien go to the hospital? He was looking a bit green.
Very good.
Oh shoot, avoid it.
Okay, let's do a nice steady paddle now, guys, okay? And then we have some chance of getting home in reasonable time, yeah?
Given the fact that a sunny late summer's afternoon with light winds forecast is the ideal time to ride an ebb tide out of this estuary, there is a little problem. A sea breeze is also likely to run against that ebb tide. Where wind and tide are against each other, the waves will build up significantly. Understanding your route to shallower and therefore slower and smoother waters is therefore important. And that came to matter to us on our way home.
Just gentle strokes. Don't go crazy hard. Just gentle, a little bit of help, and it makes all the difference. A little bit of steady help.
What do we want? Carnival! Wings is also got to go.
Tom, paddle firmly now. Both of you paddle firmly now.
Why?
Because the waves are big. We can't go side onto those. That's okay. It sure isn't it over now. You just need to be focused and listen to what I'm saying and it's grand.
See, I didn't choose to go up front now.
I feel like we race across the globe sometimes because it's cheaper than a weekend down the road here in Ireland. That can't be right. Travel is the ultimate form of global communication, so it has its place in stopping people blowing each other to pieces because it helps us understand each other. But a quiet, simple and affordable escape into the simple beauty of our countryside must have its place too, especially the way the future looks on this planet.
Let's push back, guys.
Hey, Tom,
Everybody push back together. Okay, let's turn it around now.
It seems to me sometimes like the earth is running a fever to push us back just a little. But if being pushed back a little means being pushed back into the places such as this, then I'm okay with it. But if being pushed back into built-up places or theme parks is what it means, then I am not okay with that. It seems that many would seek to ban us all from everywhere in this country sometimes. It is my firm belief that banning people from enjoying activities in the Irish outdoors is an absolute non-runner on the road to any positive future. Better to inform, perhaps limit, perhaps educate, perhaps license, but ultimately support people enjoying these things responsibly so that they come to love these places. And that is how these habitats will be valued and therefore minded. I've been paddling this estuary for some 15 years on and off. I've never left a trace other than positive memories. In fact, I cannot imagine a means of transport that leaves less trace than this.
last we are here. Freedom.
There is something special about this time of year. The ground is as warm as it gets. The water is still warm. The last of the summer reaches out to you like a departing companion, leaving you happier than ever to just be in the last of its company before the cold and storms take you to other places. Nowhere better to just be with this time of year than a canoe, more especially a canoe filled with your nearest and dearest. After all, these are the good old days.